I want to touch on a topic that's a little sensitive. I think that it's worth addressing would be how many more people have to die, women, through the abuse of a man. An article was sent to me from a friend of mine about a lady in Seward, Nebraska. She was being abused by her boyfriend, and she did everything right. She'd got a protective order, she'd been to the courts, and he ended up doing very, very little jail time. And when he gets out, the last round, it was like 3 times. The third time he gets out of jail, and within 2 days, the girl's dead. He killed her. And I'm really disturbed with our justice system on many levels because it's almost like domestic violence is not being taken seriously. A girlfriend of mine had sent me a photo, and this was back in October, of what had happened to her from her boyfriend. So the story goes is they're all partying, having a good time, and this guy just snaps and he does this to her face. After hours with the police being at the home, with the feeling that this guy was not going to get arrested because they're looking at him, talking to him about what happened, and really siding with the guy. And finally, because she had a witness to what happened, did the cops finally arrest this guy. So he has been in jail since October. The story with this, what's happening is he goes to jail and he's held there. So I don't know about bond or anything, but he's still in jail. He's been in jail since October. And my friend does not, she's pursuing it. She wants 7 years prison time. But what he's really looking at probably is going to be a slap on the wrist and he's going to end up getting released. Now, the darker side of the story is that after this happened to my friend and he was in jail, she started going through his phone and found out that he's actually gay. So this guy is a closet gay. He's been in a relationship with her for over 4 years, and she had no clue that he was having relationships with other men. Imagine how devastating that would be. Not only, then you ask, okay, he snapped, he punches her in the face, and then to find out that he's gay all this time and has never come out and has never openly talked about it and lived this lie in the secret with a woman that believed wholeheartedly, was in love with him in love with her. You look at all this stuff on Facebook and it's like, really, this is great. She found a great guy. I was so happy for her. And it turns out to be this. And it's just such, I know it's a tough subject. And what's tough to me about this is that I don't feel like our justice system holds these men accountable. That they look, well, he doesn't have any past offenses, he doesn't have any history of violence, so therefore it's basically a slap on the wrist and he's going to get out with time served and he'll have to pay restitution and that'll be it. But what's going to happen with this, right? So first of all, I will guarantee that there is no history recorded of violence with him because nobody reported it. Because most women don't report anymore because of how they are treated in the justice system for coming forward about domestic violence. They don't want to talk about it. So they stuff it down, they move on with their life, and this guy carries on from relationship to relationship, beating the shit out of women. And he's never, ever held accountable. So now we have somebody that actually steps forward and trying to get something to happen with this guy. And because there's no history of it, he's just going to walk after 4 months, which will be time served. And my concern, of course, is going to be now what's going to happen. Is he going to come after her because she did try to prosecute and now that his secret is out, that he is gay? If he's been keeping, he's not a young man, okay? We're talking almost 50 years old. No, he's probably older than 50, actually. So has he kept this secret his whole life? Why did this never come out? how do you keep that a secret? I guess you can, but now that that's been exposed and that's come out, what is he going to do? What is he going to do to her? And when is a law going to step up and actually protect these women? She has a protective order against him, but that means shit. I mean, they don't do anything about it. The story that I told you earlier, or the story that I just told you about the other girl that actually was murdered by this guy, she had a protective order. What did it do? It did absolutely nothing. What should have happened was the guy should have remained in jail. He should have done some serious time for what he did. No, we just let him out, and and then he goes off and he kills the girl. And I really worry about this with my friend because he is capable of doing that. They don't hold him. They don't keep him. He's not a problem to society. Just let him back out, and he goes back out and he does the same thing again and again and again until he kills somebody. And that is only when they step up. But it's too late then at that point. It's too late. In this day and age with our social media and with Facebook and Instagram and all that and the connections that we make, and this guy is living this closet life as a gay man, and the girlfriend knows nothing about it. And you think about the ridicule and everything that comes out. Now, I'm not going to mention the guy's name because of that reason, because I don't trust social media. And the same with YouTube and all that, because we get attached to wanting them to attack people, where that's really something we shouldn't have to do, right? And even my friend, and that's the other side too, is there's going to be people that are quickly going to say, well, what did she do to deserve it? She must have antagonized him. She must have done something to do that because he has no history of that. He would never do that unless she deserved it. And then they classify it that way and, justify it that way. Well, I mean, being gay, who cares? Everybody nowadays, we're all, it's all acceptable. Well, not if you're lying about it, and not if you're not letting that person know, hey, by the way, just want to let you know, I like men on the side too. You okay with that? Can we have that kind of relationship? No, not okay with that. Okay, go your merry way. But because he lived in a very manly world, working in radio as a radio announcer, I really believe he had to keep his reputation as a straight man and play the straight man life. But then on the side, on the internet, doing his pictures and posing, and who knows how many times he's hooked up with men, and then coming back and making love to his girlfriend. Okay, that is not safe. We know that. But it's the deceit. It's the lies. It's the betrayal. And then for it to come out where she gets this. Now, this isn't a little tiny thing. I mean, she's gone through surgery after surgery. Her face has been altered by this. She has a plate put into her face because of what he has done to her face. This isn't just what she's dealing with for being hit, but also finding out that he was living a secret life and having to wrap all that into her. Now, what is she doing eternally? Is she blaming herself? Is this like holding on to that? And then that can just like tumble down into a whole different thing. Suicide, thoughts of depression, major depression. I'm not good enough. Why do I keep drawing these men to me? And I really feel like our justice system is failing these women, huge, failing them, because they don't want to really look at what really is going on. And they don't take it seriously. And there's been way, way, way too many stories about these women that are losing their lives because the system keeps putting them back out into society, and then they stalk them and they go out and they kill them, and then and it's just too late at that point. But it's also the thing with proof, and we live in this world where you have to prove without a reasonable doubt. And when it comes to abuse, if you don't take the photos of the bruises and the damage, you don't have the proof. Well, then they can also discredit that by saying, well, we don't know when that happened unless there's a timestamp. I mean, there's always allegations for that. And then also with the witness. Well, I have a witness that actually saw him beat me. Well, is she in favor of the girl? I mean, there's just so many things that are always against the actual victim, that the actual victim has to fight really, really hard to get justice or to say, look, this happened to me. And then that's why they walk away and give out or give up. My husband and I had a situation when we were in court. There was a young girl that came in and she was trying to get a protective order against a man that had sexually assaulted her. And it was really, if I could have stood up and screamed, I would have, because it was really surreal to me. She's bawling her eyes out. She filled out the form, did everything right, and the judge denied it. And he literally sent her away and said, you need to come back with more evidence. More evidence. She was terrified of this man. And she walked past us just bawling. And I mean, that got me really emotional. And all I could do was think, wow, what is that, right? I mean, why is that? And that's really, I think, more of the question is why? Why is this happening? So needless to say, when my friend sent me this photo, I was just blown away. And then what she's fighting and dealing with right now in the courts, and there'll be no trial, and that they're actually, and he's pleading not guilty, by the way. He's saying he doesn't remember. And that's the other lovely thing that these people do is, oh, I was drunk, I don't remember, it wasn't me, something I never would do, I'd never do such a thing, I was so drunk. Well, at the time of the incident, when the police were there taking a report, he remembered. Now he's saying he doesn't remember. And the other sad thing about this story is there was 4 people there, and one of them actually, a man, jumped on this guy and took him off of her. And he just conveniently can't remember the story either right now. And I'm not going to jump to assumptions because I wasn't there and I don't know. But could this guy, being his friend, have known that he was gay and that he's just taking his defense and just going to back him up? I don't know. But he's pleading not guilty, and which means you would think it would go to trial then. But they don't want it to go to trial. They don't want something like this to go to trial. They really just want to just say, hey, time served, and let him go. And I don't think she really wants to go to trial because she doesn't want to face him. And that's the other thing these women are put through, is having to stand there and face their abuser after what they did. And usually after something like that, they're terrified of them. And terrified, and they just never live her life that way, constantly living in fear that he is going to come back and finish it. So then the women go out and they get trained in firearms. They learn how to protect themselves, self-defense. The guy comes back, tries to kill her. She shoots him, and then what happens? She goes to prison. I mean, it's just all backwards and fucked up, really, with that whole thing. And then proving your self-defense. Well, you have the history of that. And not saying their name. When Larry, my brother, this was quite a few years ago now, but he ended up in Florida, in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. He ended up doing 4 years in jail for something he didn't do. And this wasn't even, they had nothing. I mean, it was literally just firing a gun into the ground. But the problem with it was the guy that actually owned the home and fired the gun was a convicted felon. And he was also an informant for the Broward County Sheriff's Department. So I'm sure you can hear where this story is going to go. They put it all on Larry, where Larry, he did nothing. He didn't ever touch the gun. There was no GPS. There was GSR, GPS. there was no gunshot residue. There was nothing. There was no evidence, no proof at all on my brother. It was all on Richard Barker. And I will say his name. And I have said his name. And this is the example of saying his name, is after all the interrogation videos came to me, and I walked through all of those, and I put a piece together where Richard Barker is in the interrogation turning on bike clubs, the Outlaws and the Scurvy Few, saying, I'll get you drugs, I'll get you guns, get you whatever you want, just let me go home. I posted that video on YouTube, and like within like an hour, I had thousands of hits on it, and I literally got a call that day or the next day from the attorney telling me to remove the video because if I didn't, the FBI was looking at me and the FBI would come after me for posting the video of Richard Barker turning on all these biker clubs and putting it on my brother for something he did. And the cops backed him and supported it. Larry spent 4 years of his life in jail for this. And what was ever done about it? Nothing, absolutely nothing. Because nobody would listen, nobody cared, nobody was murdered, nobody was dead. That's what it comes down to. There's no interest in anything until somebody's dead. Will there ever be a story about what happened to my friend? No. Nobody cares. Nobody gives a shit. Why? Because she's still alive. Dateline, 48 Hours, 2020, any of these places ever pick up on any of these stories? Hell no. They want the stories that are really good. Like, oh, this drama. They come in on the stories after the guy has offended 4 times and then ends up murdering the person. That's when they come in on it, and it's too late. It's too late. I don't want to be too late with my friend. I really don't. And I'm putting it out there, and I know there's absolutely nothing I can do about it. There's nothing anybody can do about it. Can ask all day long for the justice system to change. What do you do about it?
Good question.
You know what you do about it? You take care of your own.
Yeah.
Right? It just comes down to that. You can't count on the police to take care, protect. You can't count on the justice system to look at things in a justice way. And it really just comes down to taking care of your own, bottom line, and whatever that means. Now, for my brother, because he didn't do anything, he talked. And that was the number one thing that I always say is never, ever, ever talk to the police, period. We say, well, it makes you look guilty if you don't talk to them. Well, no. They're planting that in your head, too. Just don't talk to them. Just get an attorney and don't get caught up in that. Now, in this situation with domestic violence, the thing with that is I would love to encourage more women to just say, whatever, come forward and start pushing harder and harder and harder to be noticed and to be seen that this needs to stop. Or, guess what? It'll be a Bobbitt situation.